All right, guys, today I'm going to give you one of Dr. Dre's secrets to mixing drums. Let's hop straight into the DAW. We're in FL Studio today, and we're going to be using the Waves NLS plugin to create the effect of like running stuff through a console. So back in the day, if you ran something through a console and it clipped, it would have a certain saturation and a texture over the drums. So what you can load up is Waves NLS. Okay, and I'm using the Spike, which is the SSL. The mic is the EMI, and the Nevo is like a Neve console. So these all give different tones. And what I'm doing is just driving the signal going into the console. So you got to remember, if Dr. Dre loves recording through console, that's part of the console feel, is that analog stuff that goes into cranking a sound and the analog effects. I'm not going to get into the geekiness of it, but basically pushing the sound into this plugin is going to give you a certain tone, a saturation, and a texture. So let's crank the drive, and let's turn this up. So again, I'm grouping my drums. These are raw stems from AJ Hall in his drum pack called One Mic Drums. Okay, so if you want to practice on like raw drums, that's the pack. Okay, so again, we're loading up Waves NLS. This is the bus. We're just driving the whole signal. Let's do it before and after on the drums. Here's before. Listen to how the drums are just there. They're doing their thing. Here's with. So listen to that kick and the snare combo. Okay, so what I'm going to do is exaggerate this so you can really hear it, because I took off the limiter, so just to take off any bias when I crank this. So I'm going to crank the volume going into the console, and imagine clipping very heavily going into the console. So that's what I'm trying to emulate right here to give it tone. So listen to that kick and that snare. Now let's change out the types. Okay, so Spike is like an SSL, but sometimes you want to just switch up the tone. So the mic version here is the EMI emulation. Adds a lot more body to the kick. So let's compare the SSL Spike one. Emphasis is more on the snare than the kick. Now on the mic one, the kick gets the emphasis and the snare is kind of in the background. This is my favorite one, the mic one. Let's go to the Nevo, which I believe is a Neve emulation. Now the Neve kind of, prioritizes the in-between of the kick and the snare. So like if you want them equally to be, appreciated, this is the one. But for me, I like the kick more emphasized. Okay, but we're going to run it through the SSL just to keep it SSL. So from there, we're going to run through an SSL channel strip. Okay, this is where we can EQ and add compression and everything. So again, if you have a whole console, you have not only the ability to drive stuff going in, you also have the ability to EQ, filter stuff, compress stuff, and gate stuff as well. So this is, imagine an entire strip all the way from top to bottom. This is like emulating that effect. Okay, so now we're going to add an EQ. And you can even add this before the other plugin if you want more stuff going in. So I have some pretty simple compression on this. We're at 4:1 ratio. And some simple EQ boost, just boosting up a little bit of the lows to fill out that kick. Now for older records, you can add the Fruity Stereo Enhancer. This is going to give it that left to right stereo swap effect. I understand every record's not this way, but for those who are looking, this is the plugin to use. Okay, let's start leveling a little bit. we still have the snare transients to deal with. Here's where I would usually run through tape. This is not a hard rule, but this is just what I would do to try to chop off some of that pointiness of that snare. So we're not compressing so much with the limiter. Now again, it would take time to really get into our everything about everything. So let's A-B. Here's without any of the effects on the drums. Here's the console effect. Here's the SSL channel strip. Okay, so let's turn off all the effects and then just show you before and after. Here's before. Now here's after. What I want you to focus on now is the relationship between kick and the snare as I switch these consoles out. Now keep in mind the YouTube video will be compressed. The audio is naturally compressed when uploading to YouTube, so you may not get all the detail, but just listen to the tone difference and the priority between each of these three consoles. Now let's overdrive the drums to see the difference. So I'm going to crank the drums up, turn down the trim. Now, when you push it this hard, you could really hear the difference in the texture. So listen to the harmonic difference between each. So my favorites are the Nevo and the Spike one occasionally. The mic one is good for low end if you just drive it a little bit. When you heavily drive it, it's not my tone that I would go for normally, but my favorites are Spike and Nevo. Let me know what you think about this plugin, and get out there and make some Dre type drums. Peace out, guys.